d'agriculteurs à disparaître, qu'il en ait disparu.
Firelight flickers against EU buildings in Brussels. Tractors grind to a halt on city streets. Farmers, many of them wearing work boots and high visibility jackets, gather around burning barricades, angry, exhausted, and determined. On Thursday, protesters blocked roads with tractors, lit a massive bonfire, and clashed with police outside the European Parliament during a European Council summit, turning a policy debate into a street confrontation. The protests erupted as European leaders met to decide the fate of the EU-Mercosur trade deal, one of the most ambitious and controversial agreements the bloc has ever attempted. In France's Saône-et-Loire region, banners tied to tractors read, "Bring down Mercosur, but not our cows." Roads were closed, traffic stalled, and farmers vowed to stay put. Many of those protesting say they are already struggling, squeezed by rising costs, strict environmental rules, and slow compensation after compulsory cattle culls to control disease outbreaks. They argue that the Mercosur deal would force them to compete with imports produced under far looser standards.
We are barely surviving, but the price of bread for consumers has not fallen. For 3 years now, the price of products in supermarkets has continued to rise since COVID and since the war in Ukraine, while our selling prices have collapsed. And on top of that, our purchase prices, for example, for plant protection products, are rising at the same time. We are really suffering from a contraction in our margins, our economic margins, and consumers are seeing a reduction in their purchasing power. So that means that somewhere in this equation, there are middlemen who are lining their pockets, and that's what's disgusting. This meat poses no risk to humans. It is perfectly safe to eat. Yet it is destroyed. It is sent to slaughterhouses and burned. Meanwhile, in France, some people are forced to eat Ukrainian or Brazilian chicken because they cannot afford anything else. We are made to consume that, while perfectly good local meat is thrown away. It's shameful.
In Madrid, Spanish farmers carried banners calling for fair prices and protection from what they describe as abusive imports.
We are demanding two very important things. First, that the multi-annual financial framework not be signed as it is currently drafted. The Commission and the Council's intention to sign it today in Brussels has been postponed. And second, that the Mercosur agreement not be signed as it is currently drafted. It has indeed also been postponed, but we are not satisfied with the statements made by the President that since we have fought for 25 years, it does not matter if we wait another 25 years and 1 month. We do not want it to be postponed. We want the trade agreement to include the mirror clauses that Minister Planas promised us would be included in the agreement, but are not.
First floated in the late 1990s, the EU-Mercosur deal was meant to link Europe with South America's Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay in a vast free trade zone. The EU-Mercosur agreement would remove tariffs on more than 90% of trade. Europe would gain better access for cars, machinery, and industrial goods. In return, Mercosur would export more beef, poultry, sugar, ethanol, and farm produce to the EU. European farmers warned that the deal could flood the market with cheaper food, driving down prices, while EU producers remain bound by higher environmental and animal welfare standards.
In 20 years, there's no agriculture left. This leaves roughly the same number of farmers to disappear that it has been gone for 20 years. Today, there are 370,000 farmers left. 20 years ago, there were 750,000. We are told to be responsible, but we are governed by incompetence, by reckless people who brought France toward failure. We are fed up with this European policy that is completely out of touch with reality. We need resources, we need prices, and not decisions that go against all of that. In other words, we are taxed on these fertilizers. We are forced to import inferior agricultural products. We can't take it anymore. France used to be an exporter, a major agricultural exporter. Now we are going to become an importer. That's it. We really feel like French and European agriculture is being destroyed.
Environmental groups also opposed the deal, warning it could accelerate deforestation in the Amazon, despite commitments to sustainability written into the agreement. French President Emmanuel Macron has publicly questioned the agreement, saying the numbers simply do not add up.
I will here address our farmers who are protesting the clarity of France's position from the start. Regarding Mercosur, we believe that the numbers do not add up and that this agreement cannot be signed. And it's the same thing. It's Europe's coherence, and it is a Europe that protects its agriculture and its producers. We are in favor of trade. France is, moreover, a great agricultural and agri-food power that trades worldwide, that exports. But we cannot accept sacrificing the coherence of our agriculture, our food supply, the food security of our compatriots for agreements that are not yet finalized. We have been very clear from the start. We are requesting what is called a safeguard clause.
Facing mounting pressure, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen confirmed that the planned signing has been delayed.
we have achieved a breakthrough to pave the way for a successful completion of the Mercosur agreement in January. We need a few extra weeks to address some issues with member states, and we have reached out to our Mercosur partners and agreed to postpone slightly the signature. This deal is of crucial importance for Europe economically, diplomatically, and geopolitically. It opens new trade and economic opportunities for all our member states. And with additional checks and safeguards, we've built in all necessary protections for our farmers and for our consumers. In a year dominated by news of rising tariffs and new trade restrictions, the positive impact of this pact matters, not just for our two regions, but for the global economy.
France and Italy have pushed for delays. Germany and Spain support the deal. Final approval would still require a vote in the European Parliament. Brazil's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has urged European leaders to move forward, calling the deal essential for growth and global trade.
The agreement is more favorable for them than for us. Macron does not want to do it because of their farmers. Italy does not want to do it. I do not know for what reason. The concrete fact is that we, from Brazil and from Mercosur, worked a lot to accept this agreement and convey an idea. At this moment, when you have a president of the United States wanting to weaken multilateralism and strengthen unilateralism, we wanted to make an agreement to show the world that a population of 722 million inhabitants and a GDP of 22 trillion reais were making an agreement to defend multilateralism.
Negotiations began more than 26 years ago, making Mercosur one of the EU's longest-running trade talks, stalled repeatedly by politics, protests, and environmental concerns. Supporters say the deal would reduce dependence on China and the open new markets. Critics say it risks hollowing out European farming. As fires burn outside EU buildings and tractors line Europe's roads, farmers are demanding to be heard, warning that trade without protection could come at the cost of food security and rural life.